So students, this is what Mendel did because he knew the flowers of the Pisum sativum are bisexual. You can read here, petals are there, stigma, anther, stamen and the carpel. So obviously the male portions and the female portions are present in the same flower, so flowers are bisexual. And because in a cross fertilization concept you need two parents to be there, so he went with the parent. Now this is the symbol for female and this is the symbol for the male. So he went with two plants. Now two plants of his own desire, maybe tall and dwarf, maybe wrinkled seed and the smooth seed, etc, etc. So he went with the experiment in this manner. He took one male plant and the other plant as the female plant. Remember, there are both sexes present here, but because he was considering this plant as the female plant, so obviously the next generation will not be collected from this plant. You can see the arrow shows that there is a transfer of the pollen grain going on, so cross pollination, and before that removal of the anther of the female plant flowers, so that it is called as emasculation, so that self pollination is stopped. Now bagging is done, and when the right time comes, take the pollen grain from the male considered plant and transfer here, again put a bag and put a tag and then wait for few months, and finally what will happen, from the female considered plant the fruit is there. The fruits of the pea plant or Leguminaceae family is called, or Fabaceae family is called as pod, P-O-D, pod. So these fruits were collected and these seeds were sown, and what he discovered was, when the seeds were sown, he found only one character was visible in all these plants. That means all these seeds, when they grew after germination, they produced only one type of flower color, not both. Like here you can see the violet flower is there and the white flower is there. Today we know this is recessive and this one is dominant, but he made an observation in this manner, that when two pure lines are taken, this pure line is always available in market because recessive and homozygous. This one was created by selfing and rejecting the hetero and selecting the self. See, what is pure line? Just try to understand. When a seed or a collection of seeds are taken and when they are germinated to grow into the next generation, the phenotype you are considering, like for example tallness, so the phenotype which you consider should be represented by the next generation completely. Whichsoever seed will grow into a dwarf one, for example I am considering a tall plant for pure line I want to create. So if any of the seed give rise to a tall dwarf one, you have to reject it. So keep rejecting in next generation. Finally, in your hand you will have only those seeds which are completely homozygous and they are true to their character, or they will always breed the same. So this is called as true breeding pea lines, PEA, pea lines. So he created such plants with the violet flower also, and when a cross was made between these two plants, this was considered as a male, this as a female. He found that in the next generation all plants showed similar character, but they represented only one parent. They did not resemble the other parent. Is it clear? Now in the same manner he performed a reverse cross also. Now what is reverse cross? It is also called as reciprocal cross, because when Mendel performed experiment, he started thinking that maybe the sex of the individual plays an important role. So he wanted to see whether the sex plays an important role in this inheritance. So in the next set of experiment, what he did, he performed an opposite cross. That means now white was taken as the female plant and the violet was taken as the male plant. In that case also he observed that similar results came. That means sex has, or the gender has, nothing to do with the inheritance of the next generation character. So this is how he performed a normal cross as well as a reciprocal cross to authenticate his result or finding, and he understood that one of the form of the character is always representing itself more compared to the other one. If you have gone through the notes in the previous class, I have spoken about this, that what were the main points scientists discovered were. So these were the main points. If you remember, I told that by this time scientists have understood that the traits are discrete, they do not blend. Then they may remain masked for one generation or more generation. They may reappear again, that is called atavism. In the notes I have asked this question to you. Then trait may remain together. This is regarding the independent assortment topic. We'll be learning about it later. One form of trait is more oftenly seen than the other. So same thing. Now in this generation, what you can see, the violet is visible more. But in the next generation, you remember selfing will be done. And in the selfing, what will happen? 3:1 ratio will come. So 3:1 means violet is more and white is left. This less. That means that one of the form of the trait or the character is more visible in population compared to the other one. So these were the findings of the scientists for that time. Now what was next? So you can represent the same cross in this manner also. Two parents plants were taken, so it is sometimes represented as a symbol P. So the P is written for parental generation, F1 for the first filial generation, filial is the next progeny, F2 for the next progeny. Now remember, parents were crossed, and after their crossing, the next generation showed only one character, did not show both characters, only the one character. And when these F1 generation seeds were grown and then they were selfed. Selfed means there is no participation of Mendel. Mendel had nothing to do with the selfing, because selfing is a normal process in the pea plant. So no emasculation, no bagging, no tagging, nothing of such sort. So after allowing them to go for selfing or autogamy or bud pollination, he collected the seeds from these plants, because now all of them are acting like a mother plant, because you have performed self-pollination here. So when he collected those seeds and grew them, he obtained the F2 generation plants, and he found that out of every 4, that means numbers were there, maybe 700 plants he grew, maybe 800 something he grew. So he made a ratio out of it. So the ratio was, out of every 4, 3:1. That means 3 grew into tall plants and 1 grew into a dwarf plant. Remember, the same results he obtained for all of these characters. Imagine how much of patience and hard work he did. For these many characters also he performed